All right. Today we'll be talking about where do we shrink ourselves and where do we expand ourselves unapologetically. If I'm being honest, I know for myself, moments where I do find myself shrinking is when I wasn't too confident and self assured of myself. So when I would find myself around people who were, it would kind of just reflect that back to me. And as someone who spent a lot of time running from themselves, that was very hard to face, a very tough pill to swallow. But it's kind of the same when I'd be in environments or around people where being yourself, your true self, wasn't at the forefront. And that awkwardness I carried about me, that lack of self insecurity in my person just emulsified, which just adds on to like that shrinking feeling, you know, feeling like you're there, but you're not playing a factor in interactions. You're not contributing meaningfully. You know, I'd remember thinking to myself at times after finishing conversing with someone, like, wow, did they take away anything impactful from interacting with me? Did they come out of this interaction feeling better about themselves? And obviously, it's not my job to be making people feel better after interacting with me, but to think to myself, like, wow, I just kind of came across as like a meaningless interaction because of my own lack of sense of self. I wasn't able to display me, That really did aid into my inner turmoil. On the opposite end, though, an area where I've always felt myself able to expand, always felt present, even confident, because I felt secure in my capability to continuously interact, evolve, and constantly reflect with. It's always been expression within art. I can honestly go on a whole tirade about what art means to me, but I'll keep it very brief. You can always explore that later on. But the focal point of what art has always allowed me, it always just allowed me a free reign of a canvas that I could impose myself, my will, my thoughts, my fears, my angst, my haste, everything and anything that I desired to, that I didn't desire to, that I wished and that I didn't wish, all onto that format, all without judgment and always with the freedom of acceptance. At times, in some ways, it felt like exploring the arts had more meaning to me than interacting with people. But as always, there's always going to be a limit on how much you can consume something before it either just ends up consuming you or you're just not able to consume it the same way. And I found myself getting to that point because of those roadblocks I had. That lack of sense of self was apparent, which tends to just dull your not only just creative prowess, but just like your artistic lens, all in all. So it was necessary for me to bridge that gap, to delve into me, to learn me, to accept my faults and flaws. Only through then was I able to make that shift for myself. The shift I'm referring to is one where my tendency to shrink dissipated and my ability to expand continued to evolve. It didn't become stagnant or stale because I've come to challenge myself and to honestly reflect over my growth. It's become a case of letting my weaknesses become strengths and not letting my strengths become stale because I put in the time and effort to continue to cultivate them. And I think that's a very powerful thing. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? D Speaks. Talk to you in the next one.